Hello and welcome back to my channel. I'm Kloaf11. We are here to look at the changes for Elemental in the upcoming expansion Shadowlands. I've played Elemental since about mid-Legion and on and off made it through the end of BFA. I'm also an Elemental MVP in the Earthshrine Discord, which alongside Storm, Earth, and Lava is one of the top places to get updated Elemental information. You can also come and get resto enhancement information from the Discord. At the current time, there's no real big news or guides for Shadowlands because it's still in the process of being changed, and guides will be done when everything looks closer to launch. To make it clear, I'm not a TC for Storm, Earth, and Lava. I just say that because those guys work hard and I love the work they do. Looking at the spellbook, it is rearranged a little bit so that class and specific spells are in different locations. For the class spells, there's a few new additions. For the DPS Shaman, we have Chain Heal and Healing Stream Tone for a little more off healing. The amount of off healing they will do will be seen once tuning's finished, but we'll make a decision about those then. There's also Flame Tongue Weapon, which is an imbue but doesn't do much for Elemental and Resto. Right now it's currently only used by enhancement. Flame Shock is also used by enhancement now. In addition to that, we have Lightning Shield, which does a little bit in the open world for Elemental. It gives mouse turn on hit and zaps a little bit, but that's about it. It also interacts with a talent we'll discuss later. Primal Strike is also there, but it's not really used by any classes outside, any specs outside leveling. So it's just there mostly. There's also two class specific rank 2s given from level 60 to level 50 to 60 in Shadowlands. Rank 2 Astral Shift, which makes Astral Shift's duration last 50% longer, which makes it last a total of 12 seconds. It's good to try to help our defensive weaknesses. Enhancement in particular still is well below other melee specs in survivability and needs a bump. Elemental between Astral Shift and Primal Elemental list Earth Elemental Harden, which we can talent into. The big weakness we have is we don't have immunity. Hopefully we'll see if that plays a role or not in Shadowlands. It depends on design. Hex cooldown is reduced from 30 to 20, so that has use cases, but till we see the design outside PvP and certain instances in PvE, it may or may not have an effect for Elemental Shaman. Moving on to the Shaman spells, there is Spirit Walker's Grace, which kind of shores up a little more movement for Elemental. It really helps during the burst cooldowns where you want a turret like Ascendance and Storm Elemental. Other than that, we do have two new rank 2s. One is Elemental Fury rank 2, which makes our healing crits deal 250% instead of 200, and Fire Elemental Totem, which now makes any flame shock while Fire Elemental is up have double the duration. This comes into play with the two baseline changes Elemental got, which are Fire Elemental no longer gives Maelstrom. Instead, it makes Flame Shock tick 25% faster, which both the Fire Elemental changes matter when you consider the changes to Flame Shock, which is in the Shaman spellbook. Flame Shock now for Elemental Shaman, lasts 18 seconds instead of the 24 in BFA, and instead of ticking every 2 seconds, it ticks every 3 seconds. So there's a couple of things that brought Flame Shock down. The duration is the bigger hit out of the two, but they're both kind of hits. Fire Elemental passive kind of evens out the tick change, but the tick change is also slightly neutral on more Flame Shock spread cleave targets because you're less likely to munch procs. But we'll see how those actually. You'll see how those feel when you actually play Shaman. In single target, you do feel less surge procs, but Lava Burst hits a lot harder, so it's kind of a trade off there alone. And when it comes to Flame Shock duration, I'm making a note of all suggested changes at the end of the video, so we'll get there eventually. There are some talent changes. Two talents were removed: Tome Mastery and Call the Thunder. They were replaced by Echoing Shock, which duplicates a spell a second. So you cast Echoing Shock, then you cast any damaging spell or healing spell, and a second layer duplicates that spell. There's a few bugs with how Echoing Shock works right now, so once those bugs get shored up, we'll know better how it should interact with buffs on spells and stuff. And based on that, we'll be able to come up with a few use cases that could be pretty interesting. After Static Discharge is a new talent as well. Replace Tome Mastery more or less. Static Discharge only works if you have Lightning Shield. It's kind of lackluster. It doesn't really do anything but raw damage on a cooldown. Elemental Blast was moved from the 15 row to the second row, which is now 25. Also has a 30 Maelstrom cost, which it also had a damage buff, so it kind of balances out, and 30 Maelstrom cost comes with the benefit that it works with Surge of Power effects. I say Surge of Power effects because there's a few legendaries that work kind of like Surge of Power. When you cast Earthshock or Elemental Blast, something else happens. You get a buff that does something. Aftershock was changed so that it no longer works with Earthquake, and Primal Elementalist Meteor and Eye of the Storm for Fire Elemental and Storm Elemental respectively have now 8 target caps. That is all the major changes to elemental talents. So the next thing would be suggestions. When it comes to elemental, it plays mostly the same as BFA with a few less surges due to the tick change that I mentioned. At the current moment, the biggest issue with Elemental Shaman is the Flame Shock duration. To maintain 3, you have to use Flame Shock on cooldown with no in between, or else you start staggering them a little bit. An easy fix to this would be make Flame Shock duration 21 seconds, so you have a little bit of buffer, so you can finish cast and not be like, oh no, I'm not pressing Flame Shock on cooldown. Another thing that's a kind of an issue with Flame Shock, but maybe intentional, is that Flame Shock ramp up time and cleave really sucks. To do on 3 targets, you have to wait 12 seconds into the fight or trash pack. That could be remedied and brought down by 50% or more with a charge added to Flame Shock, which makes putting it out there happen faster. Another issue that became apparent with Fulmination is Mastery Elemental Overload. We kind of knew this. Mastery's been weak all of BFA, but when Fulmination was generated the same from the main to the other, which would be the equivalent Elementary Mastery generating the same amount of Mastery, the increase in generation you felt from that felt so good. I think a good fix for Elementary Mastery, it's 2-part. One is increasing the generation of Maelstrom from overloads. The second is giving it some kind of fixed percentage increase on Earthshock and Earthquake. It can even be separate based on balancing needs. Those two would really help Mastery Overload a lot. The big change everybody always asks for that I 100% agree with is Echo the Elements baseline. Gives 2 charges of Lava Burst, and it's really just you don't waste the Lava Burst charge, because without it, you only have 1 with resets, which that means now if your Lava Burst is almost off cooldown and you get a surge, you just waste it. Elemental Echo of Elements is more of a quality of life than a talent. I really think it should be baseline. Another common suggestion that I could see or leave is Stormkeeper. Right now, in all of BFA, it was, and we had it during Legion in a much stronger version. But all of BFA, Stormkeeper was basically the lock-in talent. Especially after it got the single target buff, which it really needed to increase Lightning Bolt's damage. Stormkeeper baseline would be really cool. It give us another cooldown because Fire Elemental is kind of a weak feeling cooldown, especially since it doesn't scale with like our Elemental Fury. It crits for normal, it doesn't crit for elementals 250%. Give us another cooldown, it would free up that row for more competition and buffs and balance. Because I think any weaker version of Stormkeeper just feels bad. But I also think you wouldn't want to pick either the other two over Stormkeeper, which could be seen as a design issue, but I really think it's because Stormkeeper's such a good ability that it's hard to compete with. It gives flexibility, it gives movement GCDs, and it increases either Maelstrom generation AoE or single target damage with Lightning Bolt. We also had it baseline for a whole expansion in Legion. It just feels really nice in the class. I could take it or leave it. I think it would be better to have it baseline, but I can see reasons for it not to be. That's really all the issues I have with Elemental. Overall, Elemental, in my opinion, is in a really good spot. Just a few tweaks and changes and new talents or baselines would really make the spec feel great. So, thank you for listening. I'll have links to the Shaman Discord, Wowhead article, and Storm, Earth, and Lava in the description below. If you have any questions, leave a comment. Feel free to drop in the Earthshine and say hi. And I hope you all have a wonderful day. Bye.